Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts with a card idea that I saw on YouTube recently, although it's not a recent video, by Sam Calcott. She made I think she called it a pop-up bow card because she made it in the shape of a bow. And that reminded me a little bit of a mechanism that I bought some years ago from Sam Calcott, from her Made to Surprise range, which is this pop-up book mechanism die set. But I don't want you to use this really. Well, I'm not enticing you to buy it because I don't think it's available anymore. But I have felt a little bit of guilt recently for buying all these things years ago and never really using them. So I thought, before I create something that you can recreate without dies, I have a go off camera and I'm going to use these dies to create a similar card to the one I want to create with you. And this is what I came up with. I'm not 100% happy with it. First of all, I should have chosen a different color cardstock than the white cardstock. And what I did was, these dies come in 3 sizes, and then you've got these topper dies. So I cut this in white, and then a little bit hidden, I've got the smaller one in pattern cardstock, then I've got the same size in white again, then the smaller one in pattern cardstock, the same size again in white, and then just these 2 bits on the top. And the idea of the pop-up card is that you've got these sort of spaces in there, so it pops up a little bit. I can't quite remember how this is supposed to be used because I've never ever used it properly for that. I made a box with it on my channel, which I remember the closure wasn't that good on it, but I didn't look it up. I think there is a wiper mechanism to go with that as well, but I thought I'd just use it as this. I put in a 5x7 card on the back so it actually does stand up, and I think it's quite cute with these papers sort of popping out on the side, but maybe I should have chosen some, I don't know, some pink cardstock or so. If I wanted to, I could go back and colour it in, but I'll leave it as it is. What I am happy with is these bits here. A few weeks ago, when Craft Stash had their first £5 sale, they had a second one because they're actually closing down now. I got these stamps and dies. They're also from the Made to Surprise range. I had wanted these in ages, and I was so pleased they were available for £5 because I think they're so cheerful. So you've got lots of cakes and macarons and donuts, and I had a session in front of the tally colouring them in and using glossy accents. I'm not super duper good with glossy accents because I've got quite a few bubbles here, but I think it's good enough, and as I said, I enjoyed doing that. So as I said, this is sort of my basic card idea. One thing I don't like about this either, using the big dies, is it doesn't fit into one of my standard envelopes. I think I have got some 8x8 envelopes. I'll have to have a look. This will be hand delivered, and I will put a happy birthday there and something there, I think, and then I've got the inside here of the card to write something into. But yeah, that is where I came from. If you have got these dies and you haven't used them, I suggest you do use them, but I would change these sort of mats, and I would actually cut this one, the mat, in the same size as the outer one, so the white one here, and then just cut it down like I'm going to show you now with my idea where you don't need these dies. Just popping those away, hoping they don't fall down. So I'm starting actually with a piece of, this is just some scrap paper, thin enough for me to fold, and I've cut this to 5x7 because this is supposed to be the card base, and I actually have already folded it and burnishing it in the middle as well, because all of these pages here will have a fold in the middle. So, and I want to recreate this sort of book of a look, sorry, the look of a book here. So I'm getting my scissors out here, and I'm just cutting a curve. You can put it down with a pencil, but I'm just doing this. I'm eyeballing this. So I'm just going for a curve here, and at the bottom I will have a smaller curve, so I'm not starting that low. I'm just starting here. Sorry, the daylight's just disappearing. Sun's just decided to go. So yeah, keep in mind which one is your top and your bottom. So, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to trace this now on my cardstock. I think this time I'm going with some coloured cardstock. I'll have a quick look what I'm choosing. So I found some mint green and some light blue that I'll be using. So I'm tracing this piece here now just with a pencil. You can do it a bit lighter if you want to, but I'll be cutting all these pencil lines away. So just remember which piece is which, so I'm putting one here because that's my first layer. So I'm using the same piece again, and I'm going to trim a little bit off the side. If I say a little bit, I'd say, because it's for a mat, I'd say a 1/4 inch. So again, I'm just eyeballing this, making sure it's straight though. Oh, sorry, going a bit off camera there, so you can see how much I'm cutting off. And I'm also cutting a sort of an equal amount of this here, but I'm following the same curve because this is going to be the matte layer of our card. I'll probably cut a little bit more. I'll leave it as is. So, and then I'm going on the first pattern paper that I'm choosing. I've got, oh, by the way, I haven't shown you that yet. I've used that recently. This is from a paper pad called Oh So Sweet from First Edition Paper. I think last time I used it, which was a few weeks ago, this was still available, and I think I'll link to it below. So I'm remembering the lower bit here, that's the top, so I need to make sure that stays on the top, and I'm putting it on the back of the pattern paper, and don't need to cut that side really. You could, if you wanted to, fold this piece, yeah, fold it in half and then only trace half of it. I will do the whole because it might be a bit tricky to cut when it's in double layer. So, and now I'm repeating the process of cutting this down just a little bit more on the top and on this side here, and then I'm cutting this from the second plain piece of paper, and then I'm cutting it down more, and I'm going to use more pattern paper. Then I'm cutting it down, have another piece of plain paper, and then I'm cutting it down another layer, and we'll use the pattern paper. So that all in all, I've got 6 layers, so 3 plain ones and 3 patterned ones. I will do this now off camera. I'm not quite sure how small this will get. It will probably end up like this, but I'm okay with that. If you wanted to, you could cut less off, have the layers smaller, but I think I like a bit of an edge. A little tip, when you cut this piece down with a guillotine, make sure that this edge is straight, because I just realized when I traced it that this is actually a little bit wonky. So I think when I need to cut that piece, I need to rectify that a little bit, but that's not a problem. All my pieces are cut. I used my scissors to cut the curve, and then I used my trimmer for the sides. I thought this would be easier. I've also used, on some of the pieces, used my eraser, although I wanted to be mindful to see where actually the back was, so I think this is actually the front. So one thing I need to do now is to put a score line in, and I've got this little scoreboard here. I once marked here one of the lines, so where I've got the dent here and the dent here, I'm lining this up, sort of checking that at the same time the side is straight, and then I'm just putting a score line here in the middle, because this is where we will be folding it. I'm still on the fence whether on this card here I would like to stick the mats down rather than having them individually. But I think this is really it's really a preference. You could have more than 4 of these little tabs of the spaces and have these standing up as well, because I've got pattern on the back, so I'm contemplating still what I want to do with this. So I will do this again off camera, and then I'll show you how we glue these on. But I think this time actually, on the other card, I put the book pages in first, and then I put the spaces in, and I found that really difficult. So once I have shown you how to make the spaces, I think we glue them down before we attach the book pages in the middle. I have decided to stick my mats down, so I'm just applying glue on the back here. As always, I'm using my Barely Arts glue. I'm really happy with that. Never had any problem with clogging really. And I found a little stopper from another bottle, and that really works well. So I'm just aligning the score lines here. Make sure I've got an even space on the top of the bottom, and then I'm just pressing this down. But because we're not folding the card, we just want the score lines to be sort of matching, I will just quickly go in and just reinforce that score line, making sure they're both sort of similar. Don't have to be perfect, because it's that we're not folding it. If you wanted to create a card where you fold it, I would not suggest sticking these down, because it gives too much bulk here, and that might cause problems afterwards. See, this one's a bit disaligned, but that's the back piece anyway, and I will stick a card behind it so the recipient won't know. So for the actual mechanism, I have got a strip here that is 2 inches wide. You only need, let me just think, you only need 2 inches in. Yeah, that's right, because we're cutting it in 1/4 inches. Yeah, you can have them a little bit wider, but I don't want to cut the strips and then having to do the scoring on all 4, so I'm just doing it on 1 here. So I'm scoring at a half, and I'm just scoring over the 2-inch line, scoring at 1 and at 1.5. So, and now off camera I'm cutting. No, I tell you what, I think we're going to have a, oh no, I tell you what, I changed my mind. I'm giving you different measurements. I'm scoring this a little bit lower, and I think we're doing 3/4 strips. So we're cutting this at 3/4, 1.5, 1 1/4, and oh, I'm not good with this now. What did I say? 3/4, 1.5, 2 1/4, and 3. Yeah, so that each strip is 1 3/4 wide. Yeah, so sorry for the confusion there. Yeah, I quickly do this off camera, and then I'll show you how we fold and glue them down. So when you've got your strips, the middle one is a valley fold, and then the 2 outer ones are mountain folds. So you just press them down with your finger. You don't use your bone folder, because you want this to be springy, and you get this M shape. So, and then we're taking the smallest book page here. I'm turning this upside down. This is on the top, but that doesn't really matter. And we're gluing this down, and I'm sure some Calco did it the same way, but I didn't check, that the tips here of the top bit faces outward. And I said this is where I think it's better to glue him down before we put the pages down. So I'm just sticking this here in the middle, and the same on the other side, because it's really difficult to find the middle and do it sort of evenly spaced. I've got a bit of glue oozing out, but that should be okay because it'll dry. So now I'm doing the same on the middle size. Again, sort of in the middle. You want them straight as well. See, this is not even, this one's a bit further in, but that doesn't matter at all. So, and then I'm taking my biggest piece and I'm sort of folding this in a little bit, and I'm putting glue just on the spine here. And again, my glue is very good for that. You want a liquid glue, obviously. I like a quick grab glue. So still making sure that the round, that curve is at the top. So, and I'm placing that onto the other score line, making sure I've got even space on the top and the bottom, but also that it's sort of straight on the side here. I can use my bone foil a little bit to press it down, but it will grab by itself. If you fold these spaces in and fold them down, they will just interfere. Can also apply a little bit of pressure. So, and actually we can do at the same time now, no, I'll tell you what, I'll leave that to dry for a moment. And then this one goes on the same way, just folding that in a little bit, putting the glue on here. Just folding these down here with my hand so it's easier for me to see this here. And you see, immediately see it's got a much better effect with the pattern papers than I did get with the dies that I had. So, and whilst I'm leaving that to dry, I can now open this up a little bit and put some glue on this tab here, fold it flat with my finger like that, and then press it down. Doing the same on the other side. Don't need a lot of glue, it doesn't have to be super precise. So I'm just sticking this down there. So now we'll do the same with these two spaces here, and then off camera I will decorate my front page here. Again, probably just 2 of these, and then I will find a card to put on the back. I've popped my donut and cupcake here on some foam pads like I did on the other card. So, but when this is a shopboard 5x7 card, but when I placed it down here, I didn't like the look on the top here. I don't mind the bottom too much. So my idea is to cut into that card. So I'm just placing this down, making sure it's sort of spread out evenly. I could potentially cut off a little slither as well before I stick it down. So, and I'm just tracing here with my pencil where I need to cut away, and I can easily do that with my scissors. Also need to reinforce that a little bit here, because then it will be easier to cut as well. So just following that line. There we go. So, and I can then glue this down here. As I said, I will cut down just a slither down here, and then this will look really nice. I'm still looking for a sentiment. I know I've got a few saying like "Have a sweet birthday," so I'll probably have something there, and then, as I said before with the other card, the actual greeting can then go on the inside here. So I've edit my sentiment here. I just cut a little tag to put it on there because obviously now that I had so much bulk I couldn't stamp directly onto this paper. If you want to do that, do it all before you assemble this. Then I put a few stickers around the edge just to tie in with a sort of a bit of a bolder look, and I added the macarons here. As I said before, they've got some bubbles in there, but I think they're okay. I had a thought, oh by the way, before I forget that, this stamp is from this stamp set here that came with Creative Stamping Magazine number 122, so you might have that as well. I find that a really useful sentiment for myself. So I realised when I stuck this down onto the card base that on the bottom layer here, actually, well, on the layer and the mat, we don't necessarily need the score line. Or if you like the score line, you could put another spacer in between the base card here and the first layer here, but I just stuck it down flat because I didn't want any more bulk to it. But you can see it pops up really nicely here. So yeah, I'm hoping I've put the spacers in the correct way. If I haven't, I'll put it in a disclaimer, but it's got some what's it called, dimension there. So this was my second one, as I said, the one I designed myself space-wise, and this one is the one I made with the dies. I think both are okay. It's a slightly different look to this one here. Obviously a bit faster to make with the dies maybe, but it shows again you don't really need to purchase dies to create a similar look, and I hope I could show you that. But I can say to myself, at least I've used the dies I have. So if you've got anything in your stash you haven't used in a while, or maybe even never, get them out, use them, create something with them. Sometimes I like to get creative with what I have, maybe even recreating something that the people who showed the dies, in this case Sam Calcott, showed originally. So yeah, I think sometimes it's good to use what you have. Yeah, and if you like this tutorial, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.